I had been running on pure caffeine and sheer determination for the past 4 months. Late nights, early mornings, weekends spent drowning in spreadsheets instead of laughing with friends. All for one massive project. An account so big it could completely redefine my entire career. And finally, it was done. The client was ecstatic. The presentation had been absolutely flawless. The contract was officially signed. But the best part, the reward. Oh my God, the reward. I sat at my desk, rereading the email for what must have been the 10th time, my heart thudding wildly. Harper, you went above and beyond. Consider these a personal thank you. Enjoy the game. Attached was the confirmation, 2 championship bowl tickets, 40-yard line, front row. I could barely breathe. I had never been to the championship bowl before, and as a lifelong football fan, this wasn't just a dream. It was the dream, the impossible dream, suddenly real in my hands. My fingers trembled as I printed the email, double-checking every tiny detail. The client had sent the tickets directly to my boss, Mason Drake, the senior partner at Everhart & Co. It made sense, I guess. He usually handled logistics for client gifts. I imagined the moment so vividly, Mason walking into my office, flashing that rare, grudging smile of approval, and handing them over with a well-earned Harper. Except, that moment never came. 3 days later, Mason stormed into my office without knocking, carrying the kind of smug arrogance that somehow seemed even bigger than usual. He leaned casually against my desk like he owned not just the office, but the air I breathed. I heard you got some great news, he said. I smiled, half expecting him to finally hand over the tickets. Yeah, I really appreciate it, I said, feeling the warmth of achievement all over again. I put everything into that project. He nodded, almost amused. You did, which is why I wanted to talk to you about the ticket. Something about the way he said talk made my stomach drop. A chill skated down my spine. Right, I said slowly, carefully. Mason exhaled loudly like he was pretending to be the good guy in this conversation. Here's the thing, Harper, he began, almost patronizing. Clients don't really understand corporate hierarchy. They don't always know how things work internally. When they gave you those tickets, well, that was really more of a gift to the firm, not just to you. My stomach nodded painfully. No, I said quietly, struggling to keep my voice calm. The email explicitly said they were a personal thank you. For me, he waved that away like it was just some tiny misunderstanding. I get that. But in this business, it's all about relationships, strategic decisions. So, I'll be taking the ticketing. It felt like the whole world tilted beneath me. I blinked hard. What? I already made arrangements, Mason continued breezily. I'm taking a potential investor to the game. It's a smart play for Everhart & Co. My heart pounded so loudly against my ribs, I thought it would explode. This couldn't be happening. After months of killing myself for this project, he was just taking them. That's not fair, I said, voice trembling, but measured, trying desperately to contain the storm raging inside me. The client gave them to me. Mason smirked, the kind of smirk that made my blood boil, like I was some naive child who didn't understand the real world. You should be grateful you even have a job, he said smoothly, like he was doing me a favor. That's the real reward here. I swallowed hard, gripping the arms of my chair so tightly my knuckles turned white. This wasn't about football anymore. It was about principle. It was about respect. It was about a line that should never have been crossed. Mason patted the top of my desk like I was a well-trained dog. I'm sure you understand. And hey, don't worry. You'll have plenty of other opportunities. I forced myself to breathe, to blink, to stay in control. And then, surprising even myself, I smiled. Not a real smile. Oh no, this was the kind of smile that had sharp hidden teeth behind it. Well, I said sweetly, my voice smoother than silk. Enjoy the game. Mason grinned, satisfied, and strolled out of my office like he had just done me a huge favor. He had no idea at all how much fun Monday was going to be. The moment Mason strutted out of my office, my fake smile vanished like a mask ripped away. My hands clenched into fists beneath my desk, nails digging hard into my palms. Oh my God, he really thought he could get away with this. I sat frozen for a moment, forcing my breathing to slow, to level out the white-hot rage burning under my skin. No, I couldn't afford to react emotionally. Not now. If I wanted to take Mason down, I had to be smart. And lucky for me, Mason had just handed me the perfect opportunity on a silver platter. I pulled up the original email from Daniel Rivers, the client, and read it again, heart pounding faster with every word. The key wasn't confronting Mason directly. That would get me nowhere. No, the best way to destroy him was simple. Let him destroy himself. With a deep, steadying breath, I grabbed my phone and tapped out a quick message to Daniel. Hey! Just wanted to say thanks again for thinking of me with those championship bowl tickets. Turns out they were given to someone else at Everhart & Co. Hope to catch up soon. Less than a minute later. Buzz. My phone lit up. Are you kidding me? Who took them? I smirked, feeling a wicked thrill rise inside me. Oh, this was going to be good. I played it cool. Not sure. Honestly, just know I never got them. No big deal though. No big deal though. Yeah, right. The calm before the storm kind of no big deal. Those were meant for you. Let me handle this. Say nothing. Bingo. I leaned back in my chair, heart still hammering, but now for an entirely different reason. This wasn't a battle between me and Mason anymore. Oh no, this was now a battle between Mason and the client. And I already knew exactly who would win. The rest of the day I moved carefully, almost invisible, but very much listening. Because I knew Mason, his ego wouldn't let him keep quiet. He would have to brag. Sure enough, right around lunchtime, I caught it. A loud, smug voice drifting out from the break room. Yeah, 40-yard line seats. Gonna be insane. Taking a big fish with me. You know how it is, these kinds of deals are all about relationships. I stayed hidden, biting down a laugh so hard it almost hurt. The arrogance. The stupidity. By the time Friday afternoon rolled around, the entire office was buzzing. Whispers in the hallways, side glances at the elevators. Everyone knew Mason was leaving early, boarding a flight straight to Summit City, championship bowl bound. He walked through the halls like a conquering king, smug, untouchable. I caught his eye in the hallway, putting on my best neutral face. Big plans this weekend? I asked lightly. He smirked like he was letting me in on some great exclusive secret. Oh, just making moves. I smiled sweetly. Enjoy the game, I said, and I meant it. Because by the time his plane touched down, the trap would already be in place. Saturday morning, I got a quick text from Daniel. I've arranged a meeting for Monday. Just play along. Trust me. Oh, I trusted him. I trusted him completely. Sunday came and went. And with it the championship bowl. I didn't watch a single second of it, not because my love for football had vanished. Oh no, but because I was saving all my excitement for Monday. The real show was about to begin. At exactly 9:07 a.m. Monday morning, Mason strutted into the office like he was still on top of the world. Sunglasses on indoors, coffee in hand, radiating the smugness of a man who thought he had already won. He barely glanced at me as he breezed past my desk, heading for his office. Good. Let him get nice and comfortable. I waited, heart pounding with anticipation, until at 9 sharp, a meeting invite popped up on my screen. Subject: client review, mandatory attendance. Location: Summit Room. Attendees: senior partners, Mason Drake, client representative, Harper Quinn. I clicked accept, a slow grin curling across my face. Time for the show. I walked into the glass-walled Summit Room and immediately felt the tension crackling in the air like a live wire. Mason was already there, sitting confidently at the head of the table, legs crossed, looking relaxed, like he owned the place. But the second Daniel Rivers walked in, Mason's confidence wavered, and he wasn't alone. A woman followed Daniel into the room, someone I didn't recognize, but the authority radiating off her hit the room like a shockwave. The air shifted, people stiffened. This wasn't going to be just another meeting. Daniel took his seat, setting his briefcase down with a deliberate thud. Mason, this is Vanessa Grant, VP of Corporate Partnerships, Daniel said coolly. Vanessa gave Mason a sharp, businesslike nod as she sat across from him. Mason blinked, clearly thrown off. "Oh, of course, Vanessa. Nice to meet you," he stammered. Daniel leaned forward, his smile polite, but ice cold. "Before we dive into today's agenda," he said, his voice smooth as glass, "I have a quick question." He turned to me. "Harper, did you enjoy the game?" The room went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. I tilted my head slightly, faking confusion. "The game?" I asked, innocently. "You mean the championship bowl?" I furrowed my brow, letting just the right amount of confusion cross my face. "Oh," I said lightly, "I didn't go." Daniel's expression darkened immediately. "That's strange," he said, voice dangerously calm, "because I personally arranged for you to have 2 seats." "Right, Mason." Mason froze. A flicker of panic crossed his face before he forced a shaky little laugh. "Oh, yeah, see, there was a bit of a mix-up," Mason said, waving a hand like it was no big deal. "Harper wasn't able to attend." Daniel cut him off sharply. "So who did?" Mason shifted uncomfortably, adjusting his tie like it was suddenly strangling him. I took a client," he mumbled. The words hung in the air, heavy and damning. Vanessa cleared her throat, her voice slicing through the tension like a knife. "Mason, just so I understand," she said crisply, "are you saying you took corporate seats, gifted personally to an employee, and gave them to someone else without authorization?" Mason swallowed, hard. Daniel wasn't finished. "You know," Daniel said, voice tight with barely concealed anger, "I was really looking forward to seeing Harper at that game. I thought it was a fitting reward for months of hard work. Imagine my surprise when I found out she never even received the tickets." Mason opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again, but no words came out. Vanessa turned to me. "Harper," she asked, her tone formal but kind, "did Mason inform you of any corporate policy requiring you to surrender those tickets?" I shook my head calmly. "No, he just told me they were his now." The room tensed, the silence thick and suffocating. Vanessa exhaled sharply, leaning forward. "Mason, you do realize that you not only violated internal ethical standards, but also committed what is essentially corporate theft, correct?" Mason went pale, a sickly, ghostly shade. He knew. Daniel shook his head, disappointment written all over his face. "I don't think I can continue working with someone who would so casually undermine his own team," he said grimly. Mason jolted upright, panic flashing across his face. "Wait, let's just—" Daniel cut him off without mercy. "I trust you'll handle the internal response?" he said, turning to Vanessa. She nodded once, her expression unreadable. "Effective immediately," she said firmly. Mason knew, right then, that he wasn't just in trouble. He was finished. And me, I just sat there, hands folded neatly in my lap, the picture of quiet satisfaction. Mason's silence stretched across the conference room like a noose tightening around his own throat. The same man who strutted around like he was untouchable was now sitting there, red-faced, trembling slightly, completely exposed. Vanessa leaned in, folding her hands together, her voice silk wrapped around steel. "Mason," she said smoothly, "you do understand what this looks like?" His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard. He understood all right. Daniel let out a sigh, rubbing his temples. "This isn't just about the tickets, Mason. It's about trust, about professionalism, about knowing that when I work with someone, they're not going to screw over their own employees for personal gain." Mason's jaw clenched. His fingers twitched helplessly against the table. He looked around desperate, searching for any kind of support. But the other senior partners, who had been silently observing up until now, exchanged uncomfortable glances. No one wanted to be associated with this disaster. I remained perfectly still. No smirk, no gloating. I didn't need to. The silence dragged painfully until finally Vanessa spoke again. "Mason," she said crisply, "did you expense anything related to this trip?" He blinked. "What?" She tilted her head slightly, like she already knew the answer. "Did you charge the flight? The hotel? Any meals? Any transportation? To Everhard & Co.'s account?" The panic that lit up his eyes was all the answer we needed. Daniel chuckled. but there was zero humor in it. You used company funds to take someone else to the championship bowl with tickets meant for Harper. Mason scrambled, sitting up straighter, clearing his throat like he still had a shot at explaining it all away. Listen, he said, forcing a weak smile. I understand how this looks, but I was thinking about the firm. I was cultivating a relationship with a valuable investor. Daniel cut him off again, voice sharp enough to slice glass. What investor? Mason blinked, completely thrown. Excuse me? Daniel leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. Who exactly did you take to the game? Mason's mouth opened and closed uselessly, like a fish gasping for air. The entire room leaned in, waiting. Vanessa tapped her fingers against the table, slow and deliberate. Mason, she said, answer the question. He hesitated, scrambled for an excuse, but it was useless. I already knew the truth. Mason hadn't taken a client. He hadn't taken an investor. He had taken his brother-in-law, Tyler Benson, a man with zero business relevance, zero deals, zero purpose other than drinking overpriced beer and basking in front-row seats. And Mason had expensed every last penny. You could see the realization dawn in his eyes, the horrible, crushing certainty that there was no way out. Daniel shook his head slowly, looking disgusted. Unbelievable, he muttered. He turned back to Vanessa. I want it noted that Riverside Solutions will no longer be conducting business with Mason Drake moving forward. Mason snapped his head up. Wait, that's not. Daniel continued like he hadn't even spoken. If you'd like to assign a different senior partner to handle my account, I'm open to that discussion, he said. And then he turned to me, smiling faintly. Or quite frankly, he added, I'd prefer to work directly with Harper. I managed to keep my expression neutral, but inside, oh my God, I was screaming with satisfaction. Vanessa nodded, cool and professional. Understood, she said, tapping a few notes into her tablet. She looked at Mason, her voice clipped. Mason, we'll be handling this internally. I suggest you take the rest of the week off while we review the situation. Mason's face drained of all color. He opened his mouth to argue, to beg, but when he looked around at the expressions facing him, stone cold, done with him, he knew. He was done. Finished. Out. He stood up so fast his chair scraped loudly against the floor. Without a word, he stormed out of the conference room, the glass doors swinging violently behind him. And just like that, it was over. The silence that followed Mason's humiliating exit was heavy, almost suffocating. Finally, Daniel Rivers turned toward me, his expression softening. Harper, he said gently, I want to apologize. I should have made sure you got those tickets personally. I shook my head immediately. You had no way of knowing, I said quietly. And honestly, I glanced toward the glass doors Mason had stormed through. This worked out better. Daniel chuckled, a deep, genuine sound. I like the way you think. Vanessa Grant smiled warmly, then slid a crisp document across the table toward me. Harper, she said, her voice calm but brimming with approval. Since you're already the one doing most of the work on this account, we'd like to formally offer you a promotion. My breath caught. A promotion? Oh my God. I stared at the document in front of me, hardly believing what I was seeing. A significant salary increase, more authority, a title that would finally put me on par with the very people who had dismissed and overlooked me for so long. I swallowed hard, lifting my gaze to meet Vanessa. Are you serious? I whispered. She smiled, warm and firm. Absolutely. You've more than earned it. I exhaled slowly, a huge grin breaking across my face, the weight of months, years of struggle lifting off my shoulders. Then, I said, voice steady, I accept. Daniel stewed, extending a hand across the table. Glad to hear it, he said, giving me a firm shake. And Harper? Next time I get championship bowl tickets, he winked, they'll be sent directly to you. I laughed, a genuine, bubbling sound, shaking his hand again. Mason thought he had stolen my reward. Instead, he had handed me everything I ever wanted. And the best part? Monday was just getting started. By the time I walked back to my desk, the entire office was buzzing. Whispers floated through the hallway. Side eyes darted between me and Mason's now empty corner office. In the corporate world, news traveled fast, and when a senior partner stormed out of a glass conference room, looking like he'd seen a ghost, people noticed. I sat down, doing my best to suppress the smirk tugging at my lip. I wasn't about to hide it too well, though. My inbox exploded. Congratulations, stunned messages of support. Even a few "what just happened" pings from colleagues who had only caught glimpses of the drama. And then, my phone buzzed. A text from Mason Drake. Mason Drake, what the hell did you do? I stared at it for a second, savoring the moment before typing back. Me? Not sure what you mean. I thought you were making moves? I hit send and waited. Nothing. No response. Of course not. I let out a long, slow breath, glancing at the newly signed promotion letter sitting proudly on my desk. I had won, but something in my gut told me Mason wasn't quite finished trying to claw his way out. Sure enough, about an hour later, a new email popped up. Subject: HR meeting. Immediate attendance required. I clicked it open. Harper, please report to Human Resources immediately. This is a mandatory meeting. I frowned. Oh no. Mason wasn't going down without a fight. Grabbing my notebook, I made my way to the HR office, heart hammering with a strange mix of annoyance and amusement. The receptionist barely made eye contact as she gestured me toward a glass-walled room at the back. Inside, Samantha Cole from HR sat stiffly at a conference table, and across from her, Mason. But Mason didn't look smug anymore. No, now he looked like a cornered animal, desperate, trapped, claws out. Samantha cleared her throat awkwardly. Harper, have a seat. I did. Mason leaned forward, fake concern dripping from every word. Harper, he said solemnly, I really hoped we wouldn't have to do this, but I need to bring up a very serious issue. I raised an eyebrow, which has been reviewing some of your recent communications, and we have reason to believe you violated corporate confidentiality by discussing internal business matters with an external client. I blinked. Oh, this was the play. Samantha glanced nervously between the two of us. Mason brought this concern to us this morning, she said carefully. Of course he did. Trying to flip the narrative, paint me as the problem, salvage whatever scraps of his reputation he could. I tilted my head, voice calm but sliced. And what specific confidential business matters are we talking about? Mason folded his hands dramatically on the table, like he was some noble prosecutor. The emails you sent regarding the championship bowl tickets, he said. That was an internal issue, Harp, and you took it directly to a client. I let out a short, disbelieving laugh. Right. So you're saying a personal gift, meant for me, which was then stolen, is now considered internal business. Samantha visibly flinched at my use of the word stolen. Mason's jaw twitched violently. I wouldn't call it stolen. I cut him off, sharp and clear. Really? Because the client did. In front of everyone. Silence. I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms calmly. This isn't about confidentiality, I said icily. This is about you getting caught. And now you're throwing a tantrum, because there were consequences. Samantha let out a slow, careful breath. Mason, she said gently but firmly, I understand your concern, but after reviewing the situation, I don't see any actual policy violation on Harper's part. Mason's head whipped toward her so fast it was almost comical. Excuse me? She glanced down at her notes, reading carefully. The client was the original sender of the gift, she said, and he had every right to inquire about it. Harper did not disclose private company strategy, financials, or trade secrets, only the status of something that was personally hers. Mason's face darkened, an ugly, furious red. So that's it? You're just gonna let her get away with? Samantha straightened in her seat, steel lacing her voice. Mason, she said sharply, let's be clear. You're the one under investigation, not Harper. The words hit him like a slap across the face. He started, but Samantha cut him off. The expense reports are being reviewed, she continued briskly. The client has formally withdrawn their partnership with you. And now, after everything, you're trying to retaliate against an employee who was just promoted by Everhart & Co. Mason had nothing left. Nothing to say, nothing to fight with. He had lost. Samantha sighed, pushing back from the table. Mason, I need you to leave the room. She turned to me with a much softer tone. Harper, you're free to go. I gathered my things quietly, not even bothering to look at Mason as I stood and walked out. Oh no, I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of seeing a single ounce of reaction. Not today. By the time I got back to my desk, an email had already gone out, company-wide. Effective immediately, Mason Drake is no longer with Everhart & Co. We wish him the best in his future endeavors. I read it twice just to be sure, and then, for the first time all day, I let myself smile. Really smile. Mason was gone, and I had won. But the best part, this wasn't just a victory for me. It was a warning to every arrogant, entitled boss out there. Never underestimate the people you think are beneath you. They just might be the ones to bring you down. The office felt strangely quiet after Mason's abrupt departure. Oh, people were definitely talking. Whispers in the hallways, stolen glances exchanged in the break room, but no one dared say anything out loud. The weight of what had just happened was too big. A senior partner, taken down not by another executive, not by some bigwig in a tailored suit by me. I sat at my desk, rereading the official announcement one more time. Mason's name had already been scrubbed from the directory. His office was locked. His belongings had been packed up by HR like he had never even existed. Poof. Gone. That should have been enough. But there was still one more thing I needed to do. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to Daniel Rivers' number. He picked up on the first ring. Harper, he said, amusement clear in his voice. I assume you've heard the news? I have, I said, keeping my tone light, teasing even. Figured I owed you a thank you. He laughed. A real, unbothered laugh. Oh, don't thank me. Mason did this to himself. You just gave him the rope. I smirked. Well, I appreciate you handling things so publicly. There was a brief pause, and when Daniel spoke again, his tone was more careful, more measured. Tell me something, Harper. Are you happy staying where you are? I froze for a second. What was he getting at? Or what do you mean? I asked cautiously. Let's look at the facts, he said casually. You were the one actually doing the work. You were the one who built this account. Everhart & Co. only promoted you because they had to, not because they wanted to. And Mason's departure? That was your doing. I leaned back in my chair, absorbing his words. Was he wrong? Not even a little. I'm going to be honest with you, Daniel continued smoothly. I don't like Everhart & Co. I tolerated them because I liked working with you. I blinked. Oh, I said dumbly. He chuckled. Oh, he repeated, clearly amused. So, he said, voice light but firm, let's make this simple. I want you to come work for me. My heart skipped. Wait. What? You've already proven yourself, he continued. No hesitation. You're sharp. Strategic. You don't let people walk all over you. That's exactly the kind of person I want leading my business strategy team. He let the silence stretch, just long enough to make my heart pound. And of course, he added smoothly, I'll double whatever Everhart's paying you. I nearly dropped my phone. Double. Not a bonus. Not a small bump. Double. I swallowed hard, my mouth suddenly dry. That's a big offer. He chuckled again. It is. And it's only fair. I hesitated, my mind racing. This was happening so fast. I had just gotten a promotion. Was I really about to throw that away? And then, I thought about it. Really thought about it. The years I spent being undervalued. The ideas I had pitched, only to see them repackaged under someone else's name. The countless sacrifices that had been ignored. And the fact that the only reason I was finally being recognized now was because a scandal forced their hand. Did I really owe Everhart & Co. anything? No. Absolutely not. A slow smile spread across my face. Send me the offer, I said, feeling a rush of certainty. I think I'm ready for something better. By the next morning, my resignation letter was printed, signed, and neatly tucked into a sleek envelope. I walked through the office with my head held high, ignoring the surprised whispers, the quick sidelong glances, and the not-so-subtle looks of admiration from colleagues who clearly wished they could do the same. When I handed the letter to Samantha Cole from HR, she looked genuinely shocked. You're leaving? She asked, wide-eyed. I nodded. Got an offer I couldn't refuse. She flipped open the envelope, scanned the paperwork, and let out a low whistle when she caught sight of the salary figure. Damn. she muttered under her breath. Well, I can't blame you. I smiled. It was time. As I packed up my things, a few coworkers stopped by to congratulate me. Some were shocked, others not surprised at all. And then, just as I was about to leave, I got one last message, a text, from an unknown number. Mason Drake, enjoy your little victory. You just got lucky. I stared at the words for a long second, feeling a slow, delicious surge of satisfaction. I typed back, me, luck had nothing to do with it. And with that, I walked out of Everhart & Co. for the very last time, head high, heart light, and my future brighter than ever before. A year later, I stood in my corner office, gazing out at the sprawling city skyline stretched out before me. The golden afternoon sun reflected off the skyscrapers, a view that still sometimes made me stop and smile in disbelief. My name was proudly etched on the glass door behind me. My team respected me. My salary was more than I had ever dared to dream about. But best of all, I was finally working for people who truly valued me, who saw my worth without needing a scandal to force their hand. I picked up my phone during a quick break and scrolled through a few notifications, until one particular headline caught my eye. Industry news alert. Former executive Mason Drake files lawsuit against former firm, claims wrongful termination. I stared at the screen for a beat and then let out a sharp, incredulous laugh. Oh my God, he was still trying, still clinging to the wreckage, still fighting a battle that was already lost and buried. I placed my phone face down on the desk, leaning back in my chair, letting the full weight of the moment settle over me. Mason had spent years stealing credit, walking over people, taking what wasn't his, believing he was untouchable, and in the end, he lost everything. And me, I had gained everything he never truly had. Real respect, real success, real freedom. That right there, that beautiful, undeniable truth, was the sweetest revenge of all. In life, and especially in the workplace, knowing your worth isn't arrogance, it's survival. Harper Quinn's story is a powerful reminder that silence isn't always strength, and standing up for yourself can change everything. She didn't fight Mason with rage or revenge. She used truth, professionalism, and patience to expose the kind of injustice that so many of us have quietly endured. And in the end, she didn't just get justice, she got freedom, dignity, and the career she deserved. Let this be a wake-up call to anyone who's ever been overlooked, underappreciated, or told to just be grateful. You deserve more. You are allowed to want better. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you reflect on your own worth, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and help me bring more empowering stories to life. I want to build a community where people like Harper, and people like you, feel seen, heard, and respected. And before you go, tell me in the comments, what region or country are you watching from? I'd love to know how far these stories of strength are reaching. Let's keep standing up for what's right together.